Hi, my name's Gerald Gilligan. I was in the Air Force for 22 years, from 1957 to 1979. I'd like to share a few memories and impressions that I got from that time. Well, during that time, in the 1950s, all young men had to do national service. And national service would be 2 years in the Army, the Navy or the Royal Air Force. At first I wanted to join the Royal Marines, but my employer wouldn't release me for training. So when I eventually decided, I thought I'd go in what I thought was the most skillful, the Royal Air Force. But all and nothing. When you join the Air Force, of course, you undergo lots and lots and lots of training. For a start, you've got to be drilled, you've got to adapt to a completely different way of life, discipline, everything is new. Nothing prepares you quite for what they call square bashing. Yes, you do get homesick because, of course, you have no civilian clothes. You're up at 6 o'clock every morning. You're not allowed out of camp. Everything has to be painted, washed, scrubbed, and everything's got to be spot on. Oh, many. Let me start by saying my first training camp was West Kirby on the Wirral. Across the Mersey from Liverpool. We spent about a month there, 6 weeks, drilling, and then I was selected as an equipment accounts clerk. It's not a very onerous or interesting job, but of course you must remember with the Air Force, for every one man flying an airplane, there's probably 20 men doing other things. So West Kirby, square bashing, and then supply trade training at Royal Air Force Hereford, and then 4 weeks on a troop ship out to Singapore to Royal Air Force Changi, 2.5 years in Royal Air Force Changi, and then back to England and to 16 maintenance units, Stafford. I was there for a couple of years and joined the Royal Air Force Mountain Rescue Team, which was one of the highlights of my career. From there I went to Bahrain, Muharraq in Bahrain, for a year. I wasn't too impressed with that, but the people were nice enough. From Bahrain back to Stafford. Now Stafford was a big unit. Thousands, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 staff, but I was lucky. I had some very interesting jobs. One of my first jobs was to be in charge of a stock taking party. We would go around the unit doing stock taking on a continuous basis, and then I was selected to be the Chief Equipment Officer's clerk, or the Commandant's clerk. So I was in the outer office of the Air Commodore, and that was very interesting. I saw lots and lots of things that I wouldn't normally see as a young corporal as I was then. After 16 MU Stafford, I was posted to Royal Air Force Saxa Board. Now Saxa Board is the most northerly RAF unit in the world. It's on the island of Unst in the Shetland Islands, 60 degrees north, nearer to the coast really of Norway than central Scotland. It's one of these kind of places, either you love it or you don't. It's rather a Marmite type camp. I loved it. After Saxa Board, incidentally, met and married my wife, and we're still together, and we went off to Cyprus. 3 years in Cyprus, wonderful time in Cyprus, and then back to Saxa Board. The second time we were in Saxford, we decided to live out among the locals, and that was really, really nice. And then I was promoted and went to a little camp called Air Force Cottesmore in Rutland, and that was quite interesting, getting along there very nicely. And then I was very happy to receive a posting to West Germany, as it was then called, the 2nd Tactical Air Force, and I was posted at Wildenrath and spent 3 years there. That was very, very interesting. We managed to travel a lot in Europe, especially Austria, Holland, and of course were 2 children then, 2 lovely girls, and they really loved it. Deers at the bottom of the garden, walking in the woods, really wonderful. And then I was promoted shortly before my tour expired. I was promoted to warrant officer and posted back for my last tour of duty, as it would be, at Royal Air Force Marham in Norfolk. Yeah, well, I was very, very pleased and proud to be a member of the Royal Air Force Mountain Rescue Team, and was very, very new to it, although I had done a lot of camping before I joined the Air Force. Very new to it when we went out on our first call out, when unfortunately a young man who was in the Lake District working on his vacation in one of the hotels went for a walk one evening and never returned. There were 3 mountain rescue teams out there, plus civilian mountain rescue teams, and we never found him. And 6 weeks later, unfortunately, he was found where he had obviously tripped, fallen, and anyway, he was of course dead. That was quite sad. Then on Snowdon, we were out on an exercise, a small party of us just looking for new campsites actually, and the officer in charge got a call. A chap had fallen on Crib Goch on the Snowdon Horseshoe, and we went up there. He was a foreign scientist, and he'd fallen and broken his leg, and we helped to bring him down. That was quite memorable. I thought about one occasion in Singapore. I loved the large Sunderland flying boats, and of course the flying boats flew from Seletar, and I was on a trade training course in Seletar when they beat the retreat and hauled the last flying boat out of the water. It was parked on the camp, and the Chinese coolies, or the Chinese scrap merchants, got his thousands and thousands of people there, and they were like bees, ants, and in no time at all these beautiful big aircraft were stripped down to skeletons and then nothing. By this time I was a flight sergeant, and I decided, because my 2 daughters were very clever and I wanted them both to get a good university education, so I decided to come out after 22 years, which was what they call pensionable, so I would get a pension. The alternative was I could stay on till the age of 55, but you generally found that when chaps stayed on till 55, they didn't really develop a career, a civilian career later, and a lot of them lost interest very, very quickly. So I decided at the age of 43, come out and start all over again. It was then that we left Germany, and my last posting was a very famous RAF camp, RAF Marham, which is still a leading fighter base, It used to have the name Aden with grass. Aden was supposed to be a desolate, horrible place in Yemen, and Marham was a desolate place in Norfolk. One bus a day, and if you missed it, you'd had it. There wasn't a lot to do, but generally the camp was quite good. So I was a warrant officer there, and I did the C&C of the silence mess, and saw that it was the landing base or landing and takeoff base for the royal family when they were coming to the place in Sandringham. Altogether, my service in the Air Force, what did I like about it? Everything. I've always been very lucky that every job I've ever had, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I think that is a state of mind, but there you go. If you enjoy something, you really enjoy doing it. It makes life great, very pleasurable. And I used to think I must be one of the few people in the world that thinks, oh, Monday morning, thank goodness. I used to love work. Friends, you make wonderful friends. I have friends now from 60 years ago in the Royal Air Force, and we're still in touch. I enjoyed my time in the Air Force tremendously. Every job I had, I really thoroughly enjoyed. I think it's a kind of an attitude that you develop, but I certainly enjoyed my 22 years in the Air Force, and I would say it's a wonderful career in the armed forces for any young man, young lady who wants to serve and wants to see the world.